How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video. We are looking at the FTC today, and we have a little bit of news to go through. It's actually quite important, and it does finally, in my opinion, put the nail in the coffin where the FTC lands, because they've pretty much now been given the final sucker punch that they wanted. Now, the European regulators won't require notification from Activision or Microsoft Report. And basically, the EU is basically saying, we don't want another review. We are happy with the deal in place. And whatever's agreed with the CMA, we will be happy as well. So as far as the CMA is concerned, in regards to hoping that the EU will step in and try to cause problems, a headache, or even some retractions from the overall situation with the CMA still delaying and trying to push all the way to the 18th, I don't think this is going to be much of an issue, and this wasn't the win that the CMA was hoping for. In my opinion, they are still doing their damnedest to try and block this deal, but come the 18th, if they don't give a full-on approval, I can see Microsoft, within their rights as well, closing the deal and then having to deal with the CMA on the 23rd of October, where the CMA will have to explain to Justice Marcus Smith why they decided that they didn't want to approve the deal, considering he pretty much told them that you kind of need to approve this deal. The console harm theory, and with Microsoft's new emissions for cloud gaming, where they're giving up xCloud rights to Ubisoft, that pretty much clears them of everything. There's no reason for this deal not to go through, but they are still dilly-dallying about it. But more importantly, we come to this. Of course, Florian, our go-to legal expert, says Microsoft has received broad-based, powerful, meaningful, and politically diverse support against the FTC's appeal of Judge Corley's Activision ruling. So the FTC is still trying to go against Judge Corley despite being slapped down 3 times. 9 amicus briefs. The FTC only got 1, and it was absolutely ridiculous. That's a clear signal to the CMA too. Now, as you can see here, former US antitrust enforcers, high-ranking FTC and Department of Justice officials have basically said we are okay with this situation going through. Former state attorneys general have said that they are perfectly okay with this deal. Economists and antitrust law professors have agreed that this is perfectly okay with going through. Chamber of Commerce, by definition, pro-business. Venture capital firms, what the FTC would complicate their investors' exists, which in turn would result in less investment in the next round of innovations. All of these are approving and have given their full support to Microsoft and Activision merging together. Business Roundtable, corporate CEOs, indie developers, Curve Games, Finji, I Am 8-Bit, Strange Scaffold, Studio Wildcard, who have all benefited from Game Pass. And if we have a look at what this says over here, ABK are 5 independent companies of all shapes and sizes that publish or develop video games for a range of game streaming platforms, including Microsoft's Game Pass service on Xbox. ABK thus have first-hand experience with Microsoft's Game Pass subscription services and its effects on the market for independently published and developed games. While the FTC argues that the merger will stifle competition, ABK, or ABK, however you pronounce that, have had precisely the opposite experience with Microsoft's Game Pass service. Subscription services like Game Pass are crucial to the success of indie games. They increase the odds that players will discover indie games. This is 100% true, and lower the cost for players to try them when they do. There is a reason for this. If you see an indie game, you are less likely to spend £5 or £10 on it. Even when it comes to a couple of pounds, you are less likely to do it. But if you see it on Game Pass, you're willing to give it a try. And if you like it, the next time that indie company releases something, you'll be more inclined to part with that £3 or £5 for that game. Not only does it give them exposure, it gives people the opportunity to try those games with no barrier to entry, but it also enables them to get paid by Microsoft per download. So it's a win-win situation. Since players would otherwise have to buy indie games outright, by lowering the barrier to try new games, which is exactly what I just said, right? Subscription services like Game Pass increase the odds that indie games can break through into a viable, revenue-generating level of players' future. Literally what I just said. Moreover, visibility for an indie game on one platform, like appearing among the other most popular games on Game Pass, frequently translates to greater visibility and awareness. See? So this is basically what they're saying. The FTC's arguments simply do not reflect the reality MSC have experienced on the ground. On appeal, the FTC has turned its attention from competition in the console market, the primary focus of its case in the district court, which it legally cannot do. If it wants to appeal the situation with Judge Corley, it has to appeal it on the grounds that was originally placed forward. They can't go back on a different case. So this is already being thrown out, right? To the potential effects of other purposed markets, including the subscription services, the FTC arguments rest on theories that bear no resemblance to the market experienced by game developers and publishers in the real world. So the FTC's argument is already pretty much going out the water. But as we were continuing, Tech Freedom Advocacy Group have approved labor unions, CWA, and AFL-CIO have also approved. The FTC is isolated from left to right. There's resistance to its biggest mistake in merger enforcement, which is that the FTC decided to oppose this deal against the law and the facts. And that's where we're at right now, right? The simple reality is they've been rejected multiple times. I know the CMA is still dilly-dallying, and I do believe that the CMA was hoping for a win here for the FTC, because if they got the win here from the FTC, that would have strengthened their case and given them the opportunity to fight back harder to block the deal in the UK. But now it looks like the FTC is finally going to get the final, as a proverbial saying goes, bitch slap down to earth. This should put the final nail in the coffin for the FTC. There's no way in hell that the FTC can win this, because they have now gone in. And the way these actually work is that if you appeal something against the judge on these cases, it has to be based on the original, case that was brought forward. The FTC has now gone and said, no, we're not talking about the original case we brought to you. What we're talking about is something completely different that we now want to bring to the table. You can't do that. There's no legal justification or legal remit for them to actually do that. It's against the law. So the fact that they're even trying this just shows how stupid they actually are. But it's just crazy how, the fact that they are willing to go to this length to try and prove their incompetence. And in my opinion, Lena Khan should now just step down. This here should be the final nail in the coffin. And if I know she was appointed directly by Biden, and maybe Biden is the one that's telling her to go balls deep into this. Maybe it is. I don't know. But at the end of the day, she is absolutely tanking her career here. If she doesn't win this case, who would want to employ someone that has wasted millions and millions and millions of taxpayers' money for what looks like a personal agenda? She's literally making herself unemployable once she leaves this place. And I hope that whoever is pulling her strings, because even I cannot believe that she is this stupid, right? I get their stupidity among the CMA and the FTC, but even I cannot believe that they are this stupid. There are people way above them pulling their strings like puppet and telling them what to do, and for them to be in the firing line. So I hope in the end it's going to be worth it. But as it stands right now, this case that's going to go up, the FTC is getting absolutely destroyed, and there's really nothing for them to do. As for the CMA is still tight-lipped. We were hoping that by mid-September we would hear something. Maybe next week we will hear something. I think if we don't hear something by the end of next week from the CMA, that should pretty much be a confirmation that we won't really hear anything until, the end date, which is October the 18th. How much longer do you think the CMA will take to comment on ABK deal again? If that being approving, conditionally, passing, or entering phase 2 again? And no one knows. But the reality is, if that goes on to October the 18th, Microsoft will just close over. Because I can't see the shareholders extending it again. Microsoft at that point will have already lost $8 billion to the shareholders. I don't think they're going to want to lose anymore, right? Because they're just bleeding money at this point. And though they're making more money than giving at this point, even with the 68 billion plus 8 billion at 76 billion, I think once the assets transfer over to Microsoft, they make something in excess of 100 billion immediately on their bank books just through asset value alone. You still don't want to diminish the value you're getting in. So I just can't see them actually. And I mean, it's clearly here everyone is agreeing that the CMA is stalling, and no one cares about the FTC, because what the FTC has done there is basically said, hey, we didn't have a case originally, but we'd like to try this one. And obviously that's not going to fly, because that's not how the legal system works. Even though the FTC would love it to work that way, because then, like the British Constitution, you could decide what it is on any given day because it's an unwritten constitution. But in the US, you don't have such freedoms. So that's where we are right now. The CMA is still delaying. The FTC is just making themselves look even more stupid. And the FTC will pretty much be dismissed again under the appellate hearing. And I think at that point, the FTC will finally say, enough's enough, we're done. If it isn't, I think something should be done, because at this point, they're just actively wasting taxpayers' money for no reason, because there's no way they're going to win this. And with everyone here, you know, former US antitrust enforcers, former state attorney generals, economists, and antitrust law professors, these are the people that were told to comment on this stuff. Whether they're lefties or righties, I don't know US politics, but the fact is these people have all agreed that this is a good deal and a good thing to happen. Whether it ends up being that way in 30 years' time is unknown, but for now, it looks like it's a good thing. But that's where we are with this. I know I haven't released a video regarding the CMA or the FTC in quite some time. There hasn't really been much news, but I did say if I did find anything, I would release news about it and talk about it. So here we are with that news. So I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But Lena Khan is about to get her final ass whooping, and that will pretty much put the final nail in the coffin for the FTC. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.